This podcast episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy. Just drop in some details about yourself and see if you're eligible to save money when you bundle your home and auto policies. The process only takes minutes, and it could mean hundreds more in your pocket. Visit Progressive.com after this episode to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along. Which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. That's ZipRecruiter.com/zip. ZipRecruiter.com/zip.
The Timeline is a Blue Wire podcast. Welcome to The Timeline, a Phoenix Suns podcast, back after the season has ended. My name is Mike, here with Sam. How you doing, Sam?
The season never ends, my friends.
Not for us.
It's just one long roller coaster. There's always plenty to talk about. Yes, technically the Suns season ended. We did what we always do, which is mope around for a few days. I'm sure people noticed there was no 0-4 podcast on our main feed to listen to a few days ago. And hey, we're back. I think for this one, it's going to be a combination of the season as it was and not like completely diving full speed ahead into all things offseason. We'll touch on some of it, but it's going to be such a long offseason, folks. You're going to have to bear with us because I don't want to. We don't want to do all of that stuff immediately, I don't think.
Well, yeah, and like... Yeah, what are we going to do? A free agency preview today? You know, like we're going to go through everything as
a draft preview with the 47th overall pick or whatever they have. So.
Yeah, we're going to go through things as the schedule calls for it. But I did ask for this specific podcast for you and I to have the opportunity to talk about the season and the playoffs ending where they did, because we honestly rarely do get that opportunity, especially after a break. Generally, if we recorded a podcast at the end of the Suns being knocked out of the playoffs, nobody listened to it. So we took that off in anyway. Although I do think, weirdly, had we released an 0-4 podcast, people were still kind of wanting some content at the end of that series, which is a little bit different than the way most seasons have ended in the past for the Suns. And maybe that says something about this season as a whole.
That's an interesting point that I didn't really think about. Yeah.
Yeah, and, you know, we did have some sort of exit interview style media availability with some of the players, and Matt Ishbia and Brian Gregory. I didn't really watch the player ones. I kind of, tuned into some clips for those ones, but I watched every second of the Matt Ishbia, Brian Gregory ones, because ultimately the offseason's about them and the decisions they make and how they feel about the team, and we'll get into that.
I thought it was about you and I. And how we feel. The offseason,
on this podcast, always, it is, Sam. It is about you and I.
Tell Kellen Olson right now, I'm making July about me. It's all about how I feel.
Perfect. Well, that's somebody will have to tell him, because as we know, he doesn't listen.
He doesn't listen. That's true. Someone go tell Kellen. Maybe we'll have an opportunity to tell him ourselves.
I'm sure.
Real quick, before we get into the Suns. Okay, also, I think it's a good point what you said about maybe the difference between the season ending how it did this year versus, say, Game 7 against the Mavs, or like previous years where we kind of just wanted to
getting swept against the Timberwolves, I think was
right.
one.
The expectations were so high, you just wanted to sink into a cave and die.
I mean, last season we did like a month and a half, 2 months of trades every episode before the season ended. So
because that
season ended in February.
Precisely what they deserved.
Yeah.
And this season, I think there's still an understanding that, none of us are happy with the sweep, but there are many good positive things to take away from a season like this. Real quick, I do want to touch on the rest of the NBA playoffs because I feel like we do always kind of talk about this. Are you invested? Are you kind of just moping around and you're not interested, and maybe you'll tune back in during the conference finals or the finals? Is there a team you're even rooting for? I'm just curious.
I love the first round. I love the amount
this
of
was
playoff
an exceptional
basketball.
First round. It truly was.
It's been a really good one this year, but like in general, I just like that there's like high quality basketball on almost every night. And as the season progresses, I don't know if I've ever talked about this on the podcast, but I've told you about it. I have like different stages of minor sports depression. The first one is when the Sun season ends, and the next one is when the finals ends. And it's just like, well, now what?
Right.
So I don't watch any other sports, as people.
That's when you pick up new hobbies.
Yeah,
that's when But like,
well, here this is the thing. Like where you live, you have the people get sad in the winter thing. Well, it's different here. The NBA season ends and it's 118 degrees outside. So I'm just like, okay.
that's really true. Here it's like July comes around, the NBA season's over, and you can finally touch grass. I've been chronically online for 9 months straight, just shit posting, and now I finally have my 3-month reprieve where I can go outside and see the sun.
A couple things on that. You asked if I have a team I'm rooting for. Not really. I really don't. And I've kind of tried to latch onto a team. In the past it was kind of easy when Mikal Bridges was first traded. I was just like, I'll just root for the Knicks a little bit when they were in the playoffs. Not first traded, but once he got to the Knicks. And even Cam Payne was on that team for a little bit too, so that was easier. Now it's been long enough. I don't feel the same about that. I just have enjoyed watching the games and being just sort of a completely neutral observer and just sort of understanding and truthfully what the basketball looks like at this time of the year when it is different than the regular season, when the defense gets cranked up, the offense gets cranked down. I love
the number of games, and maybe this says something about the number of poorly constructed rosters full of athletic freaks who can't shoot too, but I love the number of games we're seeing that legitimately have scores in the 70s, 80s,
This
90s.
is the second apron doing its thing finally, right?
Yeah. The offensive ratings have plummeted from the regular season to the playoffs, and people always say that that's going to happen, but honestly, in a lot of seasons it doesn't. It's kind of encouraging to see the way in which it has. I, for one, absolutely love, I'm just gonna say this on the main feed pod, the Ringer guys right on down the line, they all got smoked in the first round.
I had a great first round
all
from
of
a
these Nuggets fans,
Yeah.
all of these Celtics fans. Game 7 Celtics Sixers, I'm in a new apartment I just moved this week. TV on the floor. I'm watching TV on the floor. I just signed up for YouTube TV so I can watch all the games.
Yeah. Men live like this
for the playoffs.
Right?
Yeah. And all I've got is an AC unit, a TV on the floor, and I'm standing there practically gooning in my new apartment as the Celtics go down in Game 7. It's like, this is great. This is what the bachelor life is all about.
Truthfully, yeah. From a hate, because I don't have a team I'm rooting for. I had a lot of teams I was rooting against, and the first round went really well for me from that perspective. The Rockets lost, the Nuggets lost, and the Celtics lost. Those are the teams I really wanted to go down, and I enjoyed that. There was a moment there where I was like, it would also be funny if Detroit lost in the first round.
It would have.
Not that I disliked the Detroit team. I actually quite liked them, but the first round team losing to the number 1 seed losing to the 8th seed is funny. And that's funny. I could go with some
losing
funny.
to the 7th seed
in
the same year just would have been insane. I guess my one thing here that I've been pondering, we're about to watch. Well, I don't know about you. I'm about to watch after we get off this podcast and talk about the Suns for the next hour. I'm probably going to flip on Minnesota San Antonio Game 1.
Yeah, Ant is available apparently.
He's gonna try.
Yeah.
I think it's going to make a lot of Suns fans angry at what I even suggest here. Is it sacrilegious to kind of be rooting for San Antonio at this point?
I'm going to be honest with you.
Yes.
Jaden McDaniels has become one of my favorite postseason players. So I'm kind of with you, man. Even before you and I talked about it like a few weeks ago, I was talking about how Jaden McDaniels is like secretly a playoff riser. It's something we mentioned on a podcast in the past. And then this season, he's taken that to another level. He looks like a superstar in half these games. And he's just been so awesome defensively. It's easier to root for them when you're not playing against them, right? Like, they're so frustrating to play against. And you know, the Nuggets have their own villainy with the Suns fans in the past with multiple playoff series against them. And, you know, Minnesota only won, although they're sort of a villain too. You know, I think the Nuggets are a bigger villain, so that was easy. It was tough to root for the Lakers, I think, at times, which did happen a little bit, you know. But, yeah, it is what it is.
For me, it's like, I don't know, I feel weird about the Lakers too, because I actually quite like LeBron. I'd feel weird about rooting for Luka. It's just the Suns have lost to so many of these players at this point in the playoffs, unfortunately.
They're
that
all
it's like,
villains.
you know,
That's,
we don't have a sustained, unfortunately, rivalry at this point with any of these teams. We've lost to Denver and we've lost to Minnesota. So who do you really root for when those two teams go together? I had no problem rooting for Minnesota, at least for the past couple of weeks. But yeah, I don't know. Well, we'll see. I guess like Spurs, I kind of like. Knicks, I have a soft spot for. I
watched very
mostly
little of this.
mostly just watching as a neutral fan. I watched very little of the Cleveland Toronto series.
Yeah.
I basically didn't watch that one at all.
Yeah, that one I didn't tune into as much, although I did watch more of that than the Portland San Antonio one. That one, even when Wemby went down, I was like, Portland's not going to win that. I'm not interested in that one. So I kind of skipped that one entirely. But this is actually a point I was going to make later in the podcast. We watched the Suns in the playoffs, which was cool, by the way. I was happy to see that. You know, we're looking at the new lottery odds in the future, and I'm like, maybe I would have rather been in the lottery in a different season. But I do think that it was beneficial to see this Suns team in the playoffs. There's a lot to learn about this team. And I do want to have a general conversation about how we felt about the season and how we feel about the team as a whole, and then maybe some conversation about the offseason mixed in with what Brian Gregory and Matt Ishbia said. But since we're talking about the difference between the playoffs and the regular season, I did want to talk about this. We just saw the Suns in there. We just saw what worked and what did not work. It's different. What works in the regular season and what works in the playoffs is different. It's just different.
I mean,
how many of these Suns players do you now trust going forward next year to be in a playoff rotation? Because I think that's a different conversation than just who do you want to keep next year. Because you've got to keep guys that are innings eaters, if you will, like regular season guys that are really important to the team as well. But like the Suns really had like, once all the injuries were done there, they maybe had 3 or 4 guys that you trusted in the playoffs towards the end there. But I'm curious who you think it is.
Reference.
Yeah.
I love when you make a baseball reference because you actually...
Because I don't know what it means. No,
you actually used innings eater properly in that context. Like a guy who's like not really going to be in your playoff rotation, but who's going to like play 18 minutes a game down the stretch in the regular season. Like, that's what Royce O'Neal is. You know, he's an innings eater.
Okay, so you're eliminating Royce O'Neal from the equation here then.
Right off the bat. We are 10 minutes in.
He was good. He was one of the guys that was kind of good. You're wrong about that.
I've already gotten my Royce hate out of the way.
I disagree with you on that. He's actually one of the guys that I trusted towards the end of that series.
Okay. So to address your question though, it's difficult because are we just saying like the standard isn't the Oklahoma City Thunder necessarily, right? The Suns unfortunately had to go up against like an oncoming train.
I'm going to talk about that.
And that's
Brian Gregory
not
had an interesting thing to say about that. But yeah, go ahead.
It's not to make excuses for them. It's just what you learn in the regular season from a game between the Suns and the Orlando Magic is going to be much different from playing a series against the Thunder. And in some ways, I'm quite grateful that they did, I guess, because, you take lessons from that. How many of these guys do I trust?
Let's start here. Devin Booker, yes. We'll just take him off the table. We can talk about his struggles in the series if you want at some point, but like he's obviously a guy you're going to trust in the playoffs. Put him off to the side here. The next guy for me is easy. It's Dylan Brooks, right?
Sure.
He was awesome.
He was 7th in points per game in the first round in the entire league.
And his defense was excellent, like really, really good. I know that it's tough to like praise anything about a series where you got swept, But he was great, like legitimately great the entire postseason. You know, his shot didn't go down in games 1 and 2 probably, but it really did in 3 and 4. And yeah, like you said, his scoring ticked up as the series went along, and he performed in the elimination game. You know, the best player for the Suns, I think, in that game. The next guy for me only played 2 games. It's Jordan Goodwin. He only played 1 game really, but like he clearly was built for the playoffs, right?
Yes, Jordan Goodwin. I would throw Grayson Allen out there too, although he didn't really get a chance to show it. I have faith in Grayson Allen as a veteran. Call me Jordan Knott in that way.
No, I think that's fair. Like maybe not as a starter.
Held him back.
Like he's not a starter, but a guy coming off the bench, I think Grayson Allen can get minutes on a good playoff team. Then it gets hard, right? I mean, Jalen Green deserves some credit.
That might be the end of the list. It was definitely Jalen Green sure deserves some credit. I think
I still
a lot
don't
of these
feel
guys,
like I'm there with him yet, though. I don't feel like I'm confident in him in the playoff series already. You know,
although a lot of these guys, you just know that there's an asterisk next to their name because you're projecting the development forward. Like a lot of Suns fans are really, and maybe Matt Ishbia and Brian Gregory as well, are high on Rasheer Fleming, partially for good reason, but we just didn't see him play in that series. We saw him play 4 minutes or whatever.
He came in game 4 and he was awesome for like 2 possessions, and then he kind of sucked the rest of the time. Which game was it where Rasheer came in and hit 3 corner threes? Was that game 3?
It
was game 4. I believe it was game 4.
Was it game 4?
Yeah, I think so.
That was game 3. But
maybe
anyway,
right, yeah.
And we were
take
just
a week
why
off
didn't we
and
see
we
him
forget
earlier?
the whole series.
Yeah, it's whatever. The point being, the number of guys who you
but
trust
he's not there.
in their current form
in
the playoffs is, I don't know, 4 or 5 guys.
And, that's not great. It's not terrible either. And the reason I brought it up is because the bright lights are shining on you a little bit. And, you're Colin Gillespie and you look a little different. The thing about Colin is he started struggling a month or 2 before the playoffs. So he kind of just continued playing like he was. So I do think that maybe there was something going on there. Maybe he hit a wall. Maybe there was a minor injury he was playing through. I don't know. But either way, he was not one of those guys in the playoffs and really only had one stretch where he played pretty well in game 4.
I would really emphasize the fact that Colin in particular, and I was disappointed with Colin's performance in the playoffs overall, but like him especially, he had gone 3 or 4 professional seasons of basketball in a row, being a guy who mostly sits on the bench and plays like 20 to 30 games in either as a third stringer or a backup in the NBA or as like a G leaguer, literally. And then suddenly he's playing 2,000 minutes in the NBA. It's just different. So I think like if anyone has the right to say they hit the wall and just weren't the same once they got to that point, I think it's Colin Gillespie. But that's not necessarily to say that they should throw $15 million a year at him or anything.
There's no reason to feel confident in him next year. Like it's not to say that he wouldn't be good in the playoffs next year. If he was playing like he did at the beginning of the season in the playoffs, he would look better. But there's no reason for us to go, I feel more confident after this playoffs about him in the playoffs next year after what we just saw. There's just no reason to say that. I don't think Oso Ighodaro came out of that series looking terrible. It's just that he is so flawed as an individual player with his inability to hit free throws and his inability to score that it's tough to name him as one of those guys either. But like if you're looking at the 4 guys that you do trust, Oso Ighodaro is the next guy. You know what I mean? Like he's not there, but he's the next guy. And I think he deserves some credit for playing relatively well, especially with what he was asked to do, which is start for all of these games. And then of course we know we didn't see Mark Williams really, but it's tough to say that we'd be confident in him. Even if we did see him, it would have helped the team had he played, of course, because they just needed more guys that were capable. But you can't be confident that he's going to be healthy. And truthfully, he's not even on the team next year right now. Like he could be, but he might not be. If another team offers him basically anything, they could probably take him from the Suns. Like I don't think the Suns are going to pay him a lot of money. But I just wanted to start the offseason off with some sort of conversation about this team. Now, they can build a team that's pretty successful next season by keeping a lot of these guys in the regular season. Unless they get significant growth from Ryan Dunn, Rasheer Fleming, Kaman Malawach, Colin Gillespie, I guess you could throw Jordan Goodwin in as a relatively young player. He's not really. He's 28.
Yeah.
He turns 28 this year.
Yeah.
But really those guys. they don't have a lot of guys that you can really count on to be good in the playoffs. That's not to say that it's impossible for those guys to develop into that next year, but it's also unlikely. A lot of people believed very, very, very strongly that Ryan Dunn was going to be a significant part of the team this year, this time last year. And then he wasn't. So I don't know, and it's not something you can count on for sure out of Kaman Malawach or out of Rasheer Fleming. Didn't happen with Ryan Dunn. It could still happen with Ryan Dunn. I'm not going to take that off the table either, but it didn't happen with Ryan Dunn.
Big thanks to our sponsor, BetterHelp, for partnering with us for this important conversation about mental health.
This is Steve Smith here, former NFL wide receiver and host of the 89 show on YouTube. So having a counselor and working with BetterHelp, that gives you an opportunity to really start to unpack. But people don't understand, when you unpack things, you also open up a box that you're not always sure what's inside. So I think that's why seeing a professional is extremely important. If you need someone to open up to, visit BetterHelp. That's betterhelp.com/89 to get started.
We've all been there. You're away for the weekend, the big game is on, and you realize you're restricted from watching. Or maybe you're trying to check the latest lines on your betting app, but your local network is blocking the site. These are the ultimate unforced errors. You can prevent this from happening to you with IPVanish. IPVanish is the powerhouse VPN designed to keep you in the game no matter where you are. IPVanish helps you stay connected to your favorite team and streaming services while you travel. But it's not just about watching the game. For the bettors out there, IPVanish provides an extra layer of security and privacy that helps you access your account safely on public Wi-Fi. Plus, IPVanish is lightning fast, so you won't have to worry about lag during those crucial live betting moments. Right now, get a massive discount at IPVanish.com. That's IPVanish.com to get started today. Secure your play and go to IPVanish.com.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along.
Which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip.
ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. That's ZipRecruiter.com/zip. ZipRecruiter.com/zip.
If you care about coffee and how it's made, check out Alchemy Roast. They roast in small batches and source their beans responsibly, focusing on flavor instead of mass production. The result is coffee that's balanced, well-developed, and easy to drink, whether you brew at home every day or just want something better than grocery store coffee. You can order online at alchemyroaster.com, and if you use the promo code TIMELINE at checkout, you'll get 10% off your order. Go now to alchemyroaster.com, my favorite coffee, and use the promo code TIMELINE at checkout. Get 10% off, support a local Phoenix business, and get the best coffee you can buy.
Yeah. So this is quickly becoming an off-season. There's just no way to talk about this without it becoming an off-season
It's the
discussion.
off-season for us right now. They could trade someone tomorrow.
So here's the thing that happened. Everyone expected, or at least the vast majority of people expected the Suns to win maybe 35 games, and then they won 45. And now all of us get to be happy about that. It was a fantastic season for that reason. But now the bar raises. And if the Suns come back next year and they win 43 games, now that's a failure. And it's not necessarily fair that that's the way it is, but that's how it is. So they need to win more than 45 games next year in order to continue to be competitive in a very difficult Western Conference. And to your point, getting getting to that level entirely on, here's where we can bring kind of some of the continuity into the conversation, right? Because that was a buzzword that was used a lot by both Matt and Brian. Does Brian Gregory have a nickname? Weird. It feels weird
BG,
to call him Brian.
they call him sometimes.
BG?
Yeah.
Maybe I'll call him BG. Then I just think of Blake Griffin. Whatever.
I think of, yeah.
Who do you think of?
Brittany Griner.
Oh, Brittany Griner. Yeah, for sure. It's like just getting to more than 45 wins next year on continuity and internal development alone. Don't get me wrong. I love me some internal development, but it's a tall order. It's a tall order. And so there are going to have to be discussions about how can you improve the team externally as well. And I don't know, just what do you make of kind of the continuity comments that we've heard from the front office brass?
Let's get into their press conferences in general. My first initial reaction to it was, why does this feel like a victory lap? Why are they taking a victory lap on this season? Like, sometimes, okay, everyone there except Devin Booker was not a part of this team when they lost in the NBA Finals. They were not there for the high highs that the Suns hit, and they were not there for the low lows. They were not there when they were up 2-0 in the NBA Finals. They don't understand that we were essentially Gollum reaching for the ring, falling into the fire.
For the third time.
And they don't fully understand, I think, what that felt like. Because they can't. They can't. Because, you and I, having done this podcast for a long time and being Suns fans for years and years and years, experiencing being that close to it and then losing, it feels a little bit different when you hear guys going, hey, we won 45 games or whatever, and then celebrating that. It's very similar to when the KD team won 49 games and then they got swept in the playoffs and then they celebrated that. And it's like, we just traded everything for you. 49 wins is not a victory to me. I remember reaching for that ring. They said the right things. I don't want to take this away from Brian Gregory and Matt Ishbia. They said that their goal is championships. They said, a lot about how, this is how we measure success, winning a championship. But they also said, Matt Ishbia went out there and said, a lot of people said that, hiring Brian Gregory, nobody knew who he was. It was a bad decision, but look at us now, And it's like, yeah, look at us now. We got swept in the playoffs. And I know what what the expectations were for this team. I know what they are. And in some ways, he can celebrate that because people set the expectations so low and the decisions he made had them beating those expectations. But I still think about being that close. And that is haunting my memories in some way. It's like this ghost hovering above me as I hear them speak. But it still impacts how I watch that. And I want them to be disappointed in the season in some way. And I understand that you shouldn't be. And you should be happy with it. But I want to see someone who is so desperate to win that thing. And they have a plan and a way forward. And I didn't quite see that.
Yeah, it's a reasonable perspective. I guess it just depends on his tone, right, and the way he says it. And, we want to make sure, again, as long as Matt Ishbia, to me, is coming out and saying we want to compete for championships, then that's all I really need to hear. But there is that lingering fear that I understand is probably coming from you that, this isn't just about, throwing a party for the NBA for All-Star Weekend 2027 and, trying to be competitive next year and everyone has a good time and then we roll out the ball and get stomped in the first round again.
I don't want a season that is congratulatory for proving Bill Simmons wrong. That's not why I'm celebrating. That's not what I want, and that's what it felt like. He was like, look at me, I proved him wrong.
Bill Simmons is always wrong. You shouldn't have to point that out in the first place. You just let him be wrong. But yeah, no, I understand what you're saying.
I get irritable this time of year. It is what it is.
The continuity aspect of it, we can all admit, though, is a bluff, right?
I know. I'm not convinced of that.
You're not convinced? Okay,
here's what I'll say.
Your piece on it.
I
think it's a bluff.
I get the impression that at the very least, Dillon Brooks, Devin Booker, Jalen Green will be back. I got that impression by watching this stuff. I think they
have to
truly
raise my
believe
hand.
think they truly believe Jalen Green and Devin Booker works. They just didn't
you
get enough
probably
time
saw
together.
more. You saw more body language stuff. You're the body language doctor right now. I just read the tweets. I didn't watch these press
That's fine.
conferences.
Yeah.
I'll just
I just got that impression. You know, the continuity was a question. Brian Gregory, by the way, unprompted, said the phrase internal development at least 2 or 3 times, which I appreciated because, listen, we got to have a plan in this offseason, and we're going to do a couple of those coming up at some point in this offseason. But yeah, I got the impression that those guys would be back. Now, everyone else, like Brian Gregory said, we're not just here to develop our rookies. We want every one of our veterans to have a career year next year, stuff like that. And like good stuff. He's saying good stuff. He's actually very good at this. One thing I thought was funny, though, is I was watching it before we recorded today. So I was watching it like on a higher speed on YouTube so I can get through it a little faster. I put Matt Ishbia on 2 times speed, and I was like,
oh my God,
it can't do this. It's too fast. So I reduced it to 1.5 speed, and it was still kind of crazy, but I watched the whole thing. Then I played Brian Gregory's, and I was like, why isn't it playing fast? I thought I had it on 1.5. It was. He's just a slow speaker. He talks.
Well,
he speaks very deliberately.
It's the contrast of him and Matt. It's like 2 complete opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, and so I had to kick Brian Gregory up to about 2.5 to get to Matt Ishbia's speed.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, I did think that he spoke very clearly and deliberately about the season. And you're right, you don't say those things, but there's something about celebrating this season and the way that they celebrated the great job that they all did this season that makes me feel like this team is not going to be dramatically different next year. And I'm not even saying we're going to get into what I think they should do in the offseason later. And I will make some fun fake trades that are like probably basically impossible or out of reach. But I do get the feeling that they kind of wanted to stay together.
So I know you're allowed to change your opinion with new information, but I just want to point out that 6 months ago, I vividly remember us having a conversation where you were like, what if Matt Ishbia goes out and trades Kaman Malawach, at the trade deadline or in the offseason in order to get a shiny new piece, right? And we talked about how that was a possibility because this is a guy who has made these impulsive moves in the past. And if he felt that way in the past, why would he not do it again? So I just want to point out that this is quite a wild swing to go from, he's going to trade the farm to go and get whatever he absolutely can to now saying he's entirely, all about continuity. It would be a pretty rapid shift in terms of what we expect from Ishbia. I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad thing. I actually like him approaching this in a way where I don't think we can reasonably say that we know what he's thinking. Either of us. I think that's a good thing. Okay. Because the less I know,
you're right,
the more is possible in the offseason. And honestly, the less it deflates, this is the real thing I'm interested in, as someone who loves making fake trades myself, the less it deflates the value of our assets if no one actually knows if these guys are on the outside of Devin Booker,
right,
if these guys are on the trade block or not.
I'm not fully convinced that what you say to the media has any impact on trade value, personally. But I understand why they play that game anyway. They clearly do. We've seen how Shams and Woj acted in the past, so they clearly do play that game. I'm just not convinced it has any impact. But after the 49-win season, they celebrated as if it was a good thing, and then they traded for they signed Tyus Jones. You know what I mean? And then after that season...
And we applauded.
And after that, after that season, Matt Ishbia said this is an utter failure and a disaster, and they traded KD. So that in some ways, you can kind of guess what he's going to do based on how he reacts to the season. If he thinks it's a success, they're going to make minor trades. If he thinks it's a failure, they're going to make major moves. And I get the impression that he thinks it's a success. Let me ask you this. Both of them talked about how important it was this season to establish an identity and culture, and they believe that they did. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
I think I do too. I think it started to go away a little bit as guys got injured or towards the playoffs, in the playoffs, but I do too. But go ahead.
That's the thing that the Suns did this season. They established a culture and identity. They proved beyond what any of us were really expecting was possible that you actually can win a lot of games just by giving a shit. Like,
especially when half the teams are tanking.
Of course. Well, no. But it wasn't just that. The Suns were beating some good teams too, and I know they weren't down the stretch, but they beat good teams throughout the season at a rate that you would expect, the 15th best team in the NBA to do. And so we were all disappointed in the level of effort from the KD team and the Beal team. And then they went out and said, okay, we're going to get a modern coach. We're going to get a new coach, a fresh face, which we should talk about Jordan Ott too, because I think we learned something from Jordan Ott this year. But then beyond that, they gave him a personnel, and he implemented a system in which he said, we're going to crash the glass. We're going to turn you over. We're going to shoot 43s a game, which is something that you and I had been begging for years and years, and Vogel wasn't able to do it. Budenholzer wasn't able to do it. Finally, Jordan Ott came in, and he did it. They made sure that they shot threes. In a single season, they went from 28th in the NBA in offensive rebounds to 4th. They went from 28th in the NBA in steals to 4th. And they did that in spite of having about 50 to 60% of the same personnel. Devin Booker, Royce O'Neal, Grayson Allen, Colin Gillespie, Ryan Dunn, Oso Agudaro. These were all holdovers from last season. So there weren't that many changes. I mean, I know they traded KD, but like half of the minutes in the rotation were the same, and yet they still completely upended the way that they play basketball. Far and away, they established a culture this year. Yeah, I think that's a clear yes to that question.
I agree. I think that Colin Gillespie, Jordan Goodwin, Dylan Brooks are like the reason, and I think Devin Booker deserves a lot of credit. And by the way, they gave him a lot of credit in this press conference. But those three guys were sort of crucial and critical to defining what that culture meant. I think, Colin Gillespie for the first 3 quarters of the season, of course. Jordan Goodwin, just any minute he was on the court, so once he started playing in the rest of the season. And then Dylan Brooks, just through his attitude and his leadership, I think he deserves a lot of credit for that. And then the same with Devin Booker due to his leadership and his ability to, kind of back up what he says he believes about basketball and how he wants to play. I know people feel a certain kind of way about Devin Booker right now, but think about the entire season. It really mattered that Devin Booker tried defensively. In fact, this was the first year of his career, if you haven't heard this stat already, that the Suns were better on defense with Devin Booker on the floor than off. And that's because of his effort and his energy on that end of the floor. He became, I think you could say, a good defender this year. He was probably like a mediocre defender in the past, which I think when you're also the guy who runs the offense is still pretty impressive. But if you can be a good defender and still run the offense, that's especially impressive, and I think it really helps establish the tone. And so, yeah, that has a lot to do with what they did, with what the hires that they make and the players that they chose. And I think, saying it out loud matters too. You have to be intentional with it. And look, they said it right away. They're aligned when it comes to this vision. It's Brian Gregory, Matt Ishbia, and Jordan Ott all together are trying to establish the same vision and the same culture. And that was really, really helpful in doing that. And look, I'll say it. Brian Gregory went out there and said, I'll say it, and he had a little smirk, we're aligned. It would have hit a little harder, admittedly, had Matt Ishbia not said alignment and aligned 30 times right before that. But it was still pretty good, and his little smirk really sold it. But, yeah, I think that is step one. If you lose Jordan Goodwin this year, which you could, he's a free agent. If you lose Jordan Goodwin,
a lot of it would go away.
It does, and it's like so dependent on those players. It's not to say that other guys can't do it and don't do it.
Culture is always dependent on personnel.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not just this, impermanent thing that just stays with the team. Or if it is, it's because you get eventually the Spoelstra effect like 10 or 15 years into a coach's career where they've had the time to implement their principles upon an organization for years and years and years. Nobody can reasonably expect Jordan Ott to have that kind of impact on his team in year one. Mm-hmm. So, of course, a lot of it's going to be personnel for now.
Yeah. Brian Gregory.
But I want to talk about Jordan Ott real quick because I do think one of the things we learned from this season is that the Suns maybe did strike gold with Jordan Ott. Do you feel the same way?
I still do. I know people feel a little differently with him after the postseason, but
yeah,
like,
people are mad about rotations. They're going to bitch about rotations.
I am of the general belief that sometimes you make all the best decisions to try to win the game and you still lose when you're playing a team like OKC. And so there were times where I believe this is probably still the only lineup that would help you win this game, and you're still going to lose. So, I still feel pretty good about him. Here's
what happened with Jordan Ott. Jordan Ott was hired as a 40-year-old first-time head coach. He had a 40-year-old first-time head coach who is not a former player. That's important to note, right? Had 8 years of previous assistant coach experience in the NBA, which is a good amount. Not to say that, he had a good amount of experience, right? But there are guys who are not former players who they make you wait 15 years. They make you wait 20 years before you get the job, right? Because there's only 30 of them. I remember when Igor Kokoshkov finally got hired as a head coach for the Suns and had such a bad experience that he'll never have another chance to be a head coach. He had to wait, I think, 18 or 19 years as an assistant coach before he got that chance. And then
he was
season.
A head coach for a national team.
Yes.
Whereas Jordan Ott has never been a head coach of any team, which is kind of remarkable.
So, I don't say that to try and bring up any stain against Jordan Ott or whatever, as if he didn't deserve the job, but it's just he came into a difficult position because there were reasons to maybe question him. And if he'd really be able to command the respect of an NBA locker room and command the respect of a veteran like Devin Booker, who everyone understood at that point that this is his franchise. And he turned around and he absolutely did it. And he had a fantastic season, and he implemented the system. Mm-hmm. And yeah, maybe he leaned a little bit too hard on his veterans over his rookies down the stretch, but this is a team that has been in desperate need of a fresh face in the coaching seat who could guide them for more than one season at a time, and I think they finally found it.
Yeah, I agree. And it's someone that Devin Booker seems to be on the exact same page with. And that's ultimately the most important thing, especially after Mike Budenholzer. We'd never really seen Devin Booker directly clash with a coach before. We did see it last year. So it's nice to see a little different thing happening here, especially with a guy who's young, like you said, who can play or coach for a long time.
He's young. He understands the modern NBA in a way that he's not weighed down by the baggage of some of the older guys who would have been candidates for the job. And I continue to just love Jordan Ott's demeanor. He brings an intensity to the way he talks, but he doesn't hold grudges. Well, I don't know. Some people are going to, again, talk about rotations, but in the way he talks, he doesn't hold grudges against young players. He doesn't hold grudges against certain players on the team, right? He's intense, but he's not unforgiving.
Yeah, I think it's important to remember.
I just think he gets it.
He comes from a player development background. I think the choices that he makes, at least for now, we'll see how it goes going forward, because ultimately these development projects are years and years.
Look, if Rasheer Fleming plays 8 minutes a game again next year, then I reserve the right to change my mind.
Of course.
But, I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah. Brian Gregory said the Suns played so well in games 3 and 4 that we would have split or won both games had we played anyone else besides OKC.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I don't know. There's no way to prove it.
I kind of agree.
It's just it's a complete hypothetical.
Yeah, I kind of agree in a weird way. OKC is that much better than most teams, and the Suns, you're basically saying if the Suns played any of the other playoff teams, would they have won at least 1 out of 5 games?
So
and it's I think they actually do.
Something that we see, I think, a lot in this playoffs, particularly in the Eastern Conference, and the reason why the Eastern Conference is such a mess is a lot of those teams are struggling with the same issue that the Suns have, where they're one-horse shows, we just had Devin Booker. And if there's anything you learn from the playoffs this year, it's just that Devin Booker's not enough to lead a playoff offense.
This is the future of the NBA that CJ McCollum wants.
Right. Maybe. I mean, even the Detroit Pistons, with all of their great infrastructure and defense and, a second all-star technically in Jalen Duren, if you only have one guy who can create offense off the bounce in Cade Cunningham, and Cade Cunningham's a lot younger with a lot less mileage on his feet than Devin Booker, then you're going to struggle. You're going to struggle even against mediocre teams sometimes. And in theory, the Suns had this idea that maybe Jalen Green could be number 2 who creates offense. I think what we clearly saw throughout the playoffs is Dillon Brooks and Jalen Green, they can be effective players. They're in it for themselves. They're creating offense for themselves. And ideally, you get another guy next to Book who creates offense for themselves and others, which is an entirely different type of pressure release valve. I understand. Totally difficult. Maybe not feasible for them to acquire this offseason. But would they have won extra games against the San Antonio Spurs? No, probably not. I don't know. Maybe they take one if Wemby doesn't play. But like, it's mostly a useless hypothetical.
Yeah.
That's not worth discussing.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along.
Which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip.
ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. That's ZipRecruiter.com/zip. ZipRecruiter.com/zip.
You created a list of things that we learned this season. You have specific things that you wanted to talk about this team?
Well, I've already just been firing them off.
I figured, because we're like working everything into the conversation.
We're just working it all in.
What else do you have? Do you have any other ones that we haven't talked about?
Just there, I'll just continue with the book can't do it alone piece, right? Do you have anything else you want to say about that?
About Book?
About Book / the Dillon Brooks and Jalen Green experience. Can it all work together? Because I think here's something, ironically, something that we didn't learn this season is that these 3 players are owed a lot of money next year, and they barely played together. Except in the playoffs where it didn't work, but then you were playing the Thunder. So, can you really say that it didn't work or not? I think those 3 are not an effective pairing for a playoff offense. Here's what I'll say.
It's just too much tunnel vision. Devin Booker being the only guy who actually makes passes around that, it's really tough. Now, Jalen Green can do it. I don't want to hear people talking about how he's a point guard. He's not. He's a guy you want him to do that. You want him to shoot. He's not a great natural passer. And Dillon Brooks doesn't know how, so it's really tough.
It doesn't know how. It's like,
no one's taught him, apparently. Put him in the play. Send him to the G League, to the Valley Suns to learn how to pass.
I just continue to be dumbfounded when I look back. The stat that disgusts me most of all when I look at our playoff stats this year is the fact that Devin Booker was 3rd on his own team in both field goal attempts and scoring. Mm-hmm. It's actually more offensive to me that he was 3rd in field goal attempts, because I wouldn't have minded if he averaged 18 points a game or whatever on 22 shots and just shot like shit the entire series, but at least he, lit him up. But yeah, going out, 3rd on your own team in field goal attempts when you make $50+ million a year is just completely unacceptable. And of course, as we talked about all throughout the series, it's exactly what the Thunder wanted.
Yeah.
So getting that guy next to him, here's where opinions are going to start diverging, because some Suns fans still have this old-fashioned view that what Book needs is a point guard, and I just emphatically disagree with that. It could be a point guard.
Yeah, it could.
It would be great if the Suns had, drafted Tyrese Halliburton. I agree.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't need to be that, because the Suns also need size. All he needs is someone else next to him who can actually score and pass. Mm-hmm. And that could be at any position. Mm-hmm. It's just the fact that we don't have a second guy like that now.
Truthfully, it'd be really nice to see Devin Booker with a center that could do that at some point in his career. Because we have never seen that. And I think the way he moves around, sort of Jamal Murray-like, could be kind of interesting if we had a player who could do that.
We're in off-season mode, so I'm just going to go for it, okay? 3 names. Can I fire them off? Rapid fire?
Mm-hmm.
So forget Giannis for a second.
Mm-hmm.
here are 3 guys who I know for a fact could be a number 2 next to Devin Booker if they're available, which is a big if.
Okay.
And create offense.
I can't believe you're just burning this content now.
We're going to talk about it a lot. I'm sorry.
Let me turn the TikTok camera on real quick.
This is you're right. We need to get 1 million views on TikTok. Yeah. This is the rapid fire version of this. Yeah. 3 guys who make a lot of money, probably too much money, and for that reason are easily available via trade this summer.
I'm going to hate this, aren't I?
That you could pair next to Devin Booker and know that they can create offense for themselves or others. That's the challenge, is can you get one of those guys? I want you to rank them 1, 2, 3.
All right.
Who you would want on the Suns. Ja Morant, Zion Williamson, Domantas Sabonis.
Okay. 3-3-3, all 3 of them.
Are you serious?
Well, okay.
Do you actually hate all 3?
No, I like Sabonis, but this is... Are we under the impression that Malawach is out?
I don't know.
Because
maybe he plays the 4. Maybe Sabonis has played the 4 in
he
his
has, career. And there's a world where that actually works. You know, it's actually something that Brian Gregory talked about when he first was hired, playing 2 bigs, remember? And the Suns never did it. They just never.
He's one of the best rebounders in the NBA for like 6 years.
He's the best, technically, yeah, right? So I don't mind that one. I think he actually would be kind of an interesting fit next to Devin Booker. Would the team still be flawed? Yeah, probably. I mean, he's not exactly been a playoff riser in the past, but they would be better. I think
it also immediately destroys.
If you keep come on, that's probably the only one that is kind of interesting to me.
It immediately destroys a lot of your defensive identity. Honestly, I think whether you play Sabonis at the 4 or the 5, he's going to struggle. If you play him at the 5, then you're going to average 1 block a game as a team. Sabonis is, I don't know. Is it a stretch to say he's the worst starting rim protector in the NBA? Maybe he's bottom 5. And if you play him at the 4, I think there's issues there too with his ability to
move his feet
to move.
Yeah.
But anytime Devin Booker gets trapped, we know who that pass would go to, and Sabonis can, he can kill a 3-on-2 in the short roll.
Yeah, he really
which
can.
Is something that no one can do right now on the Suns.
Yeah, basically everything but shooting, and he actually does occasionally shoot threes, and maybe that's a part of his offense.
Yeah, it takes like 2 or 3 a game now.
So that one I don't hate. Also, he plays through injuries. If we're talking about the other 2 guys too. Sabonis famously, I think the only time they made the playoffs, he played through a broken thumb, I think that entire time. But Ja and Zion, I would put Zion over Ja if we're just going to talk about that. So I guess it would go Sabonis, Zion, Ja. First of all, Zion, I think, is a better player than Ja at this point. Ja, if you look at the trajectory of his career, it's on a downward slope right now. It's not to say that he couldn't get to a new team and play really well. But yeah, I'm not exactly excited about being the team to take that risk, I guess.
If we're talking about play alone, I would be really tempted to take Ja because I understand the athleticism is on a downward turn.
Are we talking about for Jalen Green then? Because this is the trouble. Like, if you trade for a point guard, you have to also trade Jalen Green.
Right, yeah. I mean, you're talking about however much it takes you to get to $40 million-ish in salary. So maybe it's Jalen Green, maybe it's either Royce or Grayson Allen is in there, or Dylan Brooks with one of Royce or Grayson. However you get to that number is how you get to it. But these are guys who can create their own shot and create shots for others who don't require you to trade 4 first-round picks, which the Suns don't have. Mm-hmm. So, beggars can't be choosers. If you want one of those guys, these are 3 guys who came to mind.
Would you trade Dylan Brooks
I
for
like
any
Ja. I like Ja's skill set. I just want to say that. I still believe in Ja's skill set and his ability to cut through a defense at will and penetrate in a way that the Suns, even Jalen Green, just don't have.
Yeah, but he can't shoot. He can't play defense.
I know.
The defense is worse than
I would
the
be
NBA
willing to live.
bad.
I would be willing to live with the can't shoot and can't play defense if he wasn't also just an idiot.
Just keep Jalen Green then.
Risk. That's the stuff
he
that
can
kills
pass
it for
much
me,
better, admittedly. But Jalen Green can shoot at least sometimes. Couldn't in the playoffs.
I'd be tempted to put Zion number 1.
Would you trade Dylan Brooks for any of them?
Is that going to piss you off?
No, I don't think so. I think Zion's the best player when he plays of all of them, and he played this season.
He played 40 games. What did he play?
I don't know, more than that. I think, but I could be wrong.
No, I'll look it up. I think he played 40 games.
Would you trade Dylan Brooks for any of them?
Zion played 62 games
Yeah, I
this
thought
season.
so.
Would
I
I
thought he
trade?
played more.
I would trade Dylan Brooks for Zion.
Really interesting.
Why is that crazy?
I'm not saying it is. I'm just asking.
Zion scores and he can get assists, and he's a relentless.
He doesn't play.
He's a relentless source of rim pressure. He played 62 games this year.
He had one season.
The highs.
Would you trade
with
for
Zion?
Anthony Davis then?
No.
He's better than all of them.
He's really old and would cost more.
He's better than all of them.
That's the big thing. I'm trying to scoop up guys.
Would he cost more? Would he cost more?
You are always. I am trying to do the Julius Randle thing. That's what I'm always trying to do. I'm trying to scoop
Randle
up the guy.
always played.
By the way,
He wasn't always good, but he always
I'm
played.
saying I'm taking guys at the nadir of their trade value and scooping them up and caressing them and nurturing them back to health in my loving arms. And together, it's all going to be okay. They're going to be good. That's what I was trying to do. By the way, remember when I was proposing trades for Lauri Markkanen last year?
Mm-hmm.
Saying, hey, this guy just averaged 18 points a game on a tanking Jazz team that doesn't give a shit about him. Maybe someone should scoop him up.
I was on board with that one.
Yeah, and he just averaged 26 a game this past season on good efficiency again, and now it's too late. So I'm trying to do the same thing. And I think you could do that with Zion.
All right.
If he plays.
Supposedly
that's
he's not
always
going
the
to be
thing.
traded, by the way. And maybe he's doing what you thought Matt Ishbia was doing, what's his name, in New Orleans. But he's like, we're not trading Zion.
Yeah.
So you start there. They talked about him more like they talked about Devin Booker, at this press conference. We'll talk about trades. We'll make trades. I have some ideas.
Zion got to the free throw line 8 times a game in 29 minutes this season.
Yeah, he's pretty unguardable when he's like doing his thing. Because he's so fast and so big.
It's just Dylan Brooks just takes jump shots. It's just a completely different type of gravity.
Yeah, and Zion creates offense for others too. He's not like top tier at that, but he definitely would have more gravity than Dylan Brooks. He'd have to be guarded more, it matters. Yeah. Interesting thought. All right. We talked about Devin Booker. You want to talk about the future of Jalen Green at all? How are you feeling about him going forward? Like, are we going to have Jalen Green trades in every podcast this offseason, or like he was better than I thought he was going to be in the last 2 months of the season?
I don't want to do it in every podcast, and I don't want to make it seem like I have a specific vendetta against Jalen Green. What I've said in the past and continue to maintain is that what we just said, basically. I don't think Jalen Green and Dylan Brooks in the same starting lineup works. That doesn't mean that, there has to be a future without Jalen Green. There could be a future without Dylan Brooks, too, right? So, yeah, we got some positive play out of Jalen down the stretch.
So are you concerned about losing the identity when you trade Dylan Brooks?
No.
See, I am a little bit. I am concerned about that a little bit. I think Dylan Brooks was essential to that, and I think his leadership actually matters in that way. Maybe it's wrong, and Dylan Brooks at times was the worst player on the team. Like, he is a guy who has these dramatic swings between being awesome and making the dumbest decisions you've ever seen. So it's fair to bring up the fact that he's both of those things. He's not just one of those things.
I don't know. To me, it's like asking, are you concerned about losing the leadership of Jay Crowder?
No,
like,
he's better than that.
I don't.
Jay Crowder was a better defender than Dylan Brooks was.
I just think you can get an enforcer without having to pay them. I mean, to be fair to Dylan, he doesn't make that much money, right? He makes 20-ish.
You better believe I'm going to put Lou Dort in some trades for the Suns in this offseason. If they have to lose him because of his salary, I'm going to put Lou Dort into some trades.
Okay.
Anyone else on the team that you want to talk about?
Let's rope a bunch of guys into a tier by just saying this. We're still talking about things the Suns learned this year, or things we learned from the Suns. So we talked about Devin Booker. We talked about Jordan Ott. I just wanted to give some credit. I think what we know about the Suns now is that their scouting on the margins is no longer laughable. And that's very notable.
Mm-hmm. That's true. And they use their G League team.
You and I personally witnessed a 50-point
that's right
game in the G League this year from Shackelford. It was very fun. But I'm not talking about him, of course. I'm talking about the scouting that allowed them to find Colin Gillespie and develop him this year. the scouting that allowed them to find Jamari Bouye this year, who honestly, had a great season and was integral to the Suns' offense to be able to come in and just juice them at times and finish the season shooting like 90% on layups, which is insane. Not on like a crazy high sample size or anything, but Bouye's finishing ability was really, really impressive this year. And even just beyond that, I don't know what the ceiling is of all of these guys. I don't know if the ceiling of them is particularly high, but I know that Ryan Dunn can stick around in the NBA for a handful of years. I know that Oso Ighodaro will stick around in the NBA for a handful of years. I believe that Rasheer Fleming and Kaman Malawach will do the same. Their scouting has gotten to a point where you can question the ceilings on these guys and debate the ceilings and wonder if they should be taking even bigger swings. But a couple of years ago, under the James Jones regime, they were wasting two-way spots on guys like Ish Wainwright, where it's just like, this isn't an NBA player. No amount of squinting tells you that this is an NBA player. Sorry,
he's more
Ish
of an
Wainwright.
NFL player.
He's a fun local story and whatever, but the way that they were treating development in the James Jones era was ridiculously frustrating to me. And I think they've turned a corner there. And, now that they've drafted Dunn and Oso and Rasheer and brought in Gillespie and Bouye, I think we can confidently say now that they've turned a corner.
The Suns
are they going to be able to work magic again in the second round this year? They have like the 47th pick or something. I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to use something to move up. Right? Mm-hmm. And maybe they do the same thing. Maybe they trade for the 31st overall pick again and just try and take this year's Rasheer Fleming. I would not be surprised at all.
The Suns have 10 players under contract next year. Devin Booker, Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, Grayson Allen, Royce O'Neal, Kaman Malawach, Haywood Highsmith. Remember, he signed a 2-year deal.
That's big.
Huge. Non-guaranteed, so if the Suns decide that they're not going to keep him, they could choose. I think they're going to keep him. He played pretty well. Ryan Dunn, Oso Ighodaro, and Rasheer Fleming round out that list of players who are still under contract. So they do have a lot of guys on the team. We talk about internal development. We talk about continuity. They don't have a lot of space to make some changes. Like if they want to bring back guys, which we know they do, you can start the conversation with Mark Williams. We got Jordan Goodwin. We got Colin Gillespie. That if they sign those 3 guys, which they may or may not, that gets them to 13. That's basically all the guys who are going to play. They only have space for 2. If they want to make actual big differences on this team, that would require them to make some trades. If they want to have enough money to re-sign all of Mark Williams, Jordan Goodwin, Colin Gillespie, they have to make trades. They have to clear some cap room in order to do that. If they want to just start some version of Oso Ighodaro, Kaman Malawach, and allow Mark Williams to go, they can probably sign these guys and go into next season like that and then fill out the roster with minor moves at the edges there. I'm not sure that Suns fans will be entirely happy with that, but that is...
Yeah, if the entire offseason was just bring back Mark Williams, Jordan Goodwin, Colin Gillespie, draft someone 47th, and then,
minimum contracts.
Let's go. We're one minimum contract, because at that point you'd be at like 15 guys, and then be like, let's go next year. I don't really know what that gets you.
Yeah, especially if these teams that were tanking this last year start trying harder, that's going to affect the Suns' ability to take people by surprise a little bit. You have Jaren Jackson Jr. on the Jazz, maybe Trae Young and Anthony Davis playing on the Wizards. The Brooklyn Nets have no plan, so I'm not really worried about them. But maybe some other teams get a little bit better and actually start trying a little bit harder, and the Suns can't, sneak into the playoffs with 40-something wins next year, especially, if they're healthier, that would help, but that's not a guarantee either.
Yeah, they also got a decent amount. I mean, I know there were injuries for the Suns this year, absolutely, but we got 60 games out of Mark Williams. We got some breaks for us that are not necessarily guaranteed next season. So I would be really careful about just falling back on if they're just healthy next year. No one's ever 100% healthy. It's not going to happen. So you need contingency plans and you need a real plan in place to upgrade the talent of the roster and not entirely rely on internal development. I'm excited for certain guys' internal development, but that can't be all there is to this summer.
That's right. But it is going to be something we do on this podcast. So stick around this offseason. We have a lot of stuff that we're going to do. We're going to cover the draft. We're going to cover free agency. We're going to do internal development episodes. We're going to review our over-unders, hopefully pretty soon, to see who won. I have not checked, by the way, so that's going to be a surprise for me as well once I figure that out. And we'll be here for the entire offseason, and that includes Patreon podcasts. So if you want to hear extra podcasts, we're going to do some fun things, I think, on the Patreon pod this year. We really have a lot of freedom to do whatever we want in that podcast. So if you have ideas or things that you want to hear and you're a patron, send them our way. We'll consider anything. This is the time of year where we can try new things.
Anything?
Anything. Who knows? Yeah.
We'll consider
we'll do a whole hour-long podcast on The Devil Wears Prada 2. Why not?
Okay.
Anything else before we go?
Did you watch The Devil Wears Prada 2?
I did watch it, actually, yeah. I enjoyed it.
Well,
Meryl Streep's fun.
We're waiting.
It's a movie. You should watch it. It's a movie about journalism.
I watched the original one. No, I know. I watched the original one when I was a kid.
That's a movie about fashion. This is a movie about journalism and the sad state of journalism.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know a few people I could recommend that to.
Yeah, your old self. It's your old job. Okay, thanks everyone for listening. We'll be back soon.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along.
Which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip.
ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. That's ZipRecruiter.com/zip. ZipRecruiter.com/zip.